Hi guys, welcome back to the Butterfly Effect podcast. Today we are going to be starting with a good old little chapter called Old Friends, where we meet up with Cole at a park bench. Jack, I'm just going to give the mic to you, mate. What do you make of this chapter, albeit small?
Yeah, a decent little chapter. I think it's really there to fill in the gap, isn't it, from what happened at the end of the mission, where, just as a quick recap, Jodie got betrayed by Ryan in terms of how the mission went down, who they were killing, etc. And she meets up with Cole really just for a little bit of what I'd call a little bit of exposition, sort of a little bit of intel dump, see how characters are getting on. I will say this, he does drop that bomb that Dawkins now runs the DPA, and I'm sat there. Obviously, those that have followed this series will know that my prediction is that Dawkins is going to turn villainous, and the fact he's in a position of power now. There is another thing that I'm going to come to later on in another chapter. It just feels like we're edging ever closer towards that, mate. So I'm going to stay true to that little theory. And then we also hear this stuff as well about like Jodie's mum, called Norah Gray, and how she lost a baby, she got sectioned, and the DPA or the CIA or a combination of the two, they kept her in a state where, she couldn't really fight back. Really, really sad sort of sequences that we get to see in the next bit. But yeah, I mean, any doubts that I had about Cole are now very much gone, mate. Not that I necessarily had any in the first place, but it's more leaning towards Dawkins now. So I feel like Cole is going to remain a good guy throughout the rest of this game.
Yeah, and I guess because you sort of had the theory and I think the last analysis as well, that you kind of learn about the car crash and you thought that might be kind of fuel, right, as well. So now it's like that, and he's in a position of power. So now I do see your school of thought and where your head's at with that one. One thing I will counter though and say is that apparently Cole mentions it wasn't his choice. He was forced into that position. So, we'll have to see on that one. But yeah, you know what? It is it's a small chapter. There's not too much to write home about here. One thing I do kind of want to mention to you though, mate, and again, I am going to talk about remixed versus in order or whatever it is. It's so confused. Chronological versus jumbled, because we're doing the original jumbled mode. It's so confusing, man. But either way, one thing I want to say is that apparently it is more effective chronologically, because for us, we literally just saw Cole 2 chapters ago in the one where Dawkins finds out that he's lost his family in the chapter called Night Session. Apparently, if you play it chronologically, mate, you don't see him for 9 chapters. So there's the separation where you get put into the CIA where he says goodbye to you. So we would have had Navajo, we would have had Homeless, we would have had the mission, or Hunted, for example. We would have had all these chapters in between. So apparently when you see Cole again, you generally are just so happy to see him and hug him again, because he's that one warm figure that you can actually trust. So I just kind of want your take on do you think, that would have been more effective? And do you think it is a shame they have gone for this jumbled order because it actually kind of ruins some of those potential emotional moments?
It makes you wonder, doesn't it, what prompted them to do this jumbled order thing? Is it to make it stand out a little bit, or I really don't get it, because it's, we even said this earlier on, didn't we? Where when I think she gets taken by the CIA, and or that scenes with Dawkins and stuff, and it's sort of that's been in the future, but we've only literally just seen the guy. And it's the same here again with Cole. It's a very odd choice, and I am curious as to if I was to see this game again in a chronological order, whether my opinions on it would change or not. So, but that's something I'll have to get onto in the background. But yeah, from what you're saying, it was an odd choice, and I think that chronological is probably going to end up being better.
No, for sure. But this chapter, mate, is pretty much adjacent to the next one, so we are kind of going chronological now. And we go to the chapter called Norah, which is quite a hard emotional chapter to get through. It's set in a hospital, not the funnest. But we basically want to meet Norah, who Cole has kind of hinted that she, you know, is under a lot of medication. She's probably kind of out of it, wouldn't recognize Jodie. So we have a bit of a sneak mission where we have to kind of go past the guards, hack some PCs, knock off some cameras. By the way, little footnote, world's worst guard. There's one point where she just looks around the window and the guard's clearly looking up at Jodie, but doesn't see her. Don't know, you know, how these guys got employed in this, you know, line of work, but, you know, they're stealing a living. But before we kind of like get to like the mother, mate, I just it's something I mentioned in my stream, but I actually forgot to visit. But did you know that like if you play as Aiden, you can go into all the different rooms, you know, that isn't your mother's one, and you can actually sort of like see a bunch of the other patients which are at the psychiatric hospital, and some of the dialogue is just so fascinating. You'll get one from this guy in cell number 36 that says, "Oh, hi, Aiden. I can see you, Aiden." You have another guy who says, "Oh, stay out of my room. You're the devil." And another one who says, "Are you willing to sacrifice yourself to save this crazy world, Jodie?" So I just wanted to like kind of ask you about that, because I just find it so fascinating how like a lot of these people in these psychiatric cells can actually see Aiden. So clearly they have a gift and they're potentially just like Jodie. But this is the world's kind of response of what they're going to do to these people. They're just going to lock them up in a cell because potentially humanity doesn't understand it.
I think that's what it makes you think about, doesn't it? You think, wow, so actually... And I think because at this point, as the player with Aiden, I think you've become so accustomed to seeing that this is like a special ability. Obviously, we know that it's just, you know, more than Jodie knows about it. Of course, the CIA know about it. But when you're as Aiden, like nobody really can clock you, can they? You know, even when you go to possess them, influence the environment, etc. So, as a nice little Easter egg, I think that's such a nice treat for fans. And if people did that on their blind playthrough, it might take them back a little bit. So it's just a nice, I think it was a nice little detail to add in there. And like I said at the top, I think it gets you thinking that, okay, the understanding of mental health and all that side of things, it can be a little bit thought-provoking, not just in the game but beyond as well. So yeah, it's a nice little thing, mate. Glad you pointed it out.
So we get to the room with the mother, and obviously it's quite harrowing to see that she's just been so drugged heavily that she's clearly like, you know, it's really sad, but she's basically rendered into a vegetable where her quality of life just isn't there. So what did you make of kind of like this and what happened when Aiden connected the pair?
It's a very sad scene. It is thrust upon you though, and I don't feel like I got to that level of engagement or emotional sort of investment as I did in, say, like the homeless chapter. Maybe if we had some time with the mum earlier on in the game, maybe there was a little bit more filling in on that front, but still nonetheless performed very well. And also as well, like that bit where you go into, I don't even know what to call it, I'll use a Doctor Who reference, I'll call it the void, where you use Aiden to take like the black gunge stuff off of her, and then you're able to have an open conversation and she reassures you, and then before you know it, it's taken away from you again, and it's that horrible thing. And again, it, you know, comes into sort of other things with mental health that they've explored in other games, namely Heavy Rain with the old woman in the bed, you know. It's you know, again, I feel like it could be one of those things that maybe stand out towards the end of, you know, having that finished playing the game. But I mean, as Quantic Dream do, they did it really well.
Massively so. And obviously, like with like the kind of visions as well, there's that particular one as well where you learn about what happened with the childbirth and how they removed Jodie from the mum and basically drugged her, so she, you know, because she says, "Oh, I've changed my mind, I want to be with my baby," and then they stop that from happening. And it's kind of hinted at that Jodie's mother, Norah, has powers herself, so they use the drugs as a method to kind of stop her from using those powers. So it's almost like really weird that they'll kind of do that to Norah, but then sort of see Jodie as a weapon. I don't know if it's because it's like they can kind of like grow her mind like as a child, but yeah, really sad to see. And it just kind of like, again, just proves that, like, you know, we're with the bad guys a lot. You know, we're basically fighting their missions for them. One thing I wanted to point out, I can't remember, Jack, are you a fan of Stranger Things at all?
You know what? I've seen season 1, but it was so long ago, I barely remember any of
No,
it.
that's fair. I mean, so what I'm about to mention is a season 2 thing anyway, but this whole sort of chapter is just so reminiscent of a Stranger Things episode with the character 11, and I'm pretty sure it's just straight up taken from Beyond Two Souls. So I think Beyond Two Souls might actually be responsible for, you know, basically the backstory of like one of the main characters for one of basically arguably Netflix's largest show, you know, to an extent anyway. So yeah, I don't know if anyone's a Stranger Things fan, and you know, but please let me know about that one. But yeah, so anything else to kind of mention with the Norah chapter, other than the fact that the CIA knocked Jodie out, and then we move on to the next bit, which is the briefing lab.
I swear I overheard at one point as well, they say that the dad maybe had a gift as well. I mean, at this point, because I know that even when you talk to Carl, I think there is actually an option for Jodie to bring up her father. I can't remember if you did or not, mate, but the focus seemed very much on the mother. But I swear I overheard at one point saying that it's believed that she and the dad had a gift, and therefore that was why they were so protective of Jodie, because it's like, oh my god, like, if, you know, what have they created? Do you know what I mean? We need to sort of use this one. So yeah, that was just a little pointer on that, but I don't know if that's something that's gonna necessarily come back later on in the game. We'll have to see.
Yeah, I mean, I can answer that one for you. So I never got the chance because, again, with a lot of these games, they do the classic thing where they present you full dialogue options. You'll pick one or two of them, and then the other two disappear away, and we'll move on. So I don't think I ever got to mention it, but I will say that Cole does mention to you that Jodie's father died before she was born. So it doesn't reveal how or why, but yeah, like, you know, Jodie's father won't be a role in this game. So, like, if you have any theories with that, you can pretty much stomp them out, mate.
Ah, fair enough. Well, I didn't, so all is good. We move.
Yeah. But we go on to the briefing. So it turns out, mate, that we were knocked out. I mean, you know, it probably reinforces your case that Dawkins is an evil person, mate, because we've just been knocked out and been brought to like this big, almost like super villainesque looking office, don't we? Where Dawkins got this fancy new haircut. He's in a suit now rather than a lab. And in a nutshell, he basically says out loud to you, oh, yeah, the CIA will let you go. You just got to do one more mission for me. So, mate, what do you make of that?
Don't trust it in the slightest. One thing I'll say, I freaking love that office. One of the best locations in the game so far. The big screens, the desk, the open space. You got like the big couches, the books, the paintings, even like the colour scheme in there. When you got dropped into that, obviously having been in, you know, a hospital, that is so. Like, I think I've said this in episode 1, but like the drastic change from one location into another is fantastic in what Quantic Dream games and what they do. But yeah, I wanted to give that a bit of a shout out. And yeah, it screams something not to be trusted. You know, I've written this down here. It sort of makes you think, like, you know, why on earth would the CIA give Jodie up once she's done this mission for them? How on earth can she trust them, especially after the mission, Ryan? And, you know, he's clearly, Dawkins being, he's got his feet under the table now because he runs the DPA and they're obviously very connected with the CIA. So, yeah, that really, coming back to what I was saying earlier on, is more evidence that I think that this guy is leaning towards corruption now.
Yeah, for sure. I think the only thing the office was missing was some like giant like taxidermy polar bear just lurking at you in the corner or something. But I do agree with you. So yeah, like obviously, yeah, he's like, oh yeah, you could do one more mission. And what's interesting as well is that afterwards we kind of do have the briefing where the big new general character, which we'll see, who of course we know is as the surgeon in Heavy Rain. basically gives you the mission. So yeah, this character just not great. He doesn't play like the best people, does he? And then at the end, mate, we kind of like we're shown that we have a bit of a super team that are put together, which we'll talk about a lot in the next chapter. But we've got our old CIA friends that we did our training with. So when that happened and Ryan came back out, what did you make of the prospect of working back with our old friend / lover?
Well, it was just further evidence of, really, you're just going to get roped back into this again. I mean, they give you the spiel, didn't they, that some other country, I want to say it was Kyrgyzstan, I think, they've got their own condenser. They're now interacting with the infra world. And, obviously the danger is that, again, the Americans, the CIA, they're positioning themselves as like the do-gooders. We need to destroy it because we don't know what that's going to bring. That could end the world. Again, it's more manipulation for Jodie, but because of what happened with the mission, you can't necessarily trust it. And it's sort of like, add insult to injury that you're then having Ryan being wheeled out to then do this mission with you. So, I mean, all over it, something stinks. And I'm curious to see how it ends this game. Because, I can't see anything going down too well with the CIA.
No, for sure, mate. And like the next chapter, we'll move on to it. It's called Dragon's Hideout. So we go straight into the mission. So it's us, Ryan, Vince, and Nick. And one of the first things I'll mention is, because you're kind of just lugging through the snow and you want to find some shelter and stuff, is just that I just don't really buy the other two as CIA agents, because I just imagine CIA kind of soldiers or whatever would just be very kind of like business, stoic, let's just get this done. But like the other two are just like moaning myrtles the entire time, like hogging like the fire around the corner. And I just look at them like, you guys just can't be CIA agents. And I don't know if it's a ploy to make them unlikable, to make Ryan thus look even better, because he's like the only one who's remotely tolerable in the room. So, what did you make of the little ensemble there we had like throughout this mission, mate?
I didn't think too much of them, but I think it's what you were saying. Maybe that was intentional, so that our direction was more focused on Ryan, whether that's because we like him and we want to pursue a romantic angle with him, or if that's because we don't like him and there's a more antagonistic relationship. But I feel like Vince and Nick were certainly just, more background characters. Maybe they were there just to pad out a bit of dialogue or fill the team out, because it would be a bit unrealistic just to send, a girl and a CIA agent into enemy territory to go destroy this thing, So sort of that justifies the mission somewhat.
Yeah, mind you, that didn't stop them from sending Jodie alone at the last mission.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, but no, I fully get that, mate. But yeah, so like obviously we find a shelter, we have a etc, etc. And then of course we go over to like this submarine sort of location where we have another kind of possession-based puzzle kind of like game thing. And there's a big submarine there because we learned that their kind of like rift is underwater, which was quite interesting. So mate, what did you make of the whole, maybe like the possession section or even like the submarine bit?
It felt a little bit more business as usual, because obviously we'd not long ago played the mission where you had aspects of that. Did it drag on a little bit? Yes. And you know what? I'm going to dovetail back to something. And I feel like, I almost see it as like a microcosm of like the game itself, with like the whole jumbled order thing. But in this chapter, it starts off with like that capture scene, doesn't it? So like that you're going to get captured at some point, and then you start to play the mission, and it's sort of like, well, we know that at some point it's going to fail. So in a way, the possession element and all the other bits that you do leading up to it, getting in the sub, going into the base, X, Y, Z, it took it away a little bit, because I'm sort of thinking, well, we know it's going to go wrong. So do I think that it was as good as what we'd seen in previous chapters? No. And I think it's because of that, going back and forth in time, that ultimately hurt it, mate.
No, I do get you, and I don't have that written down, so I am glad you brought that up, because I did think it was a weird choice. It's not something we've seen before. It's not something that, you know, I necessarily think changes the game. I don't think it's something that was necessary. So yeah, I don't really know why that was put in there. It did seem like a very odd decision, so no, I am fully with you on that one, mate.
Would say is that I do like the fact that A, we get to ski, and B, we do get to drive the submarine, albeit temporarily, don't we? Because obviously on top of that, we've already ridden the horse, we've already driven a motorcycle. So I'm actually, you know, as it goes on, I'm thinking, wow, this isn't just like a one-off. Like, we are getting like those sort of on the stick moments where we get to control something, which is just something that we're not very familiar with in these games. So I do appreciate that.
Yeah, and what, you know, I know like there's a lot of bad to say about Beyond Two Souls, but you are right, there's a lot of good as well. And I do wonder, because like, and I know this isn't the sole thing, but with the whole Aiden gameplay, and yeah, the little like embellishments, like the fact that you can ride a horse, ride a motorbike, ride a submarine, there is that little bonus element. And you know, there is an argument to say that maybe the Beyond Two Souls has the best gameplay in a Quantic Dream game. You know, yeah, I wouldn't straight up say it did, but I think there's an argument for that. But lads, so like, I just wanted to ask it before we kind of get down in the submarine bit. I mean, it kind of like with that as well, where we can kind of go in and try and blend in, maybe possess the general, follow him in. Was there any part of you that felt like you were playing a bit of a James Bond game? Because I know you are a fan, and I don't know which James Bond it is, but it was very reminiscent of one of the older ones. Maybe it was Sean Connery or Roger Moore, but like where there is a submarine section involved. I can't remember.
You know what? It didn't come to mind. What I would say, if we are referring to Bond, is perhaps like the, you know, Dawkins office. I think I've literally very Bond villain-esque, you know. It didn't cross my mind. I suppose you could on a, you know, you could say, yeah, the sort of the creeping in, the sort of larger than life base, an army. Yeah, you could say there's elements to it, but it didn't really come to mind. And I think it is because of the gameplay elements, you know, where you play as Aiden and you possess people, that it naturally just sort of distances you from thinking anywhere along those lines. But I get what you mean.
What did you make of the whole element of like, you know, you've got the war where the entity gets separated, and then we eventually do get to the bit where the mission fails, and then Jodie and Ryan are there getting tortured. What did you make of that whole section, lad?
Yeah, so this is it, because of the intercutting, and we see Aiden getting tortured, which I love, by the way. I'd have done the exact same. Like, I wouldn't have spoke. I'd have just let the guy get tortured. I was thinking to myself, well, hang on a minute, why can't we just become Aiden? But that obviously gets explained for you at this bit, doesn't it? Because there's like that like portal wall thing, whereby the plan unfolds and you possess the general, but then Aiden can't go through, so he then becomes the general again, and everything goes a bit haywire. I liked it because almost similar to what we had with the condenser, where like we had that little scare where maybe Aiden fell into the rift. You then start to see just how vulnerable Jodie is, and I suppose by extension her team and Ryan as well. So yeah, no, it was a nice little twist, mate. I wasn't expecting it.
Very much so, lad. And then obviously we get this whole section where like the entities get released and stuff, and then we get the big boss showdown with the general. And it's really interesting because it's almost like something out of Deep Blue Sea, where you just have this random sea entity which takes the general. I'm not sure if I like that. You know, I did find it a little cartoonish maybe. But nonetheless, you know, like we kind of move on and we have that whole section. But one thing, before I give you the mic, lad, I do kind of want to say that apparently it's possible to lose fail the QTEs against this general. And apparently, if you fail the fight, Ryan has to come and kind of rescue you. And you know the snow section at the end, he'll like be attempting CPR to revive you at that point when Vince and Nick show up, and then it kind of fades to black. So if Jodie fails this section, it does kind of play with you a little bit, like, oh, maybe Jodie's actually dead at this point. So yeah, I wanted to know what you made of that, and then maybe fight with the general.
It's good because I must admit, it's sort of with this game so far. I know that there is branching, but because of the order, like we've covered this already, but you almost over time start to get accustomed to this certain linearity, especially when it comes with Jodie. So any instance where there is a little bit of branching, or whether you ultimately get to the same place, but there's different means of getting there, then sure, I do like that. And you know what? It does remind me of something as well from a previous chapter. So the Norah chapter. I know in your playthrough you like took out some of the cameras.
Yeah.
Does that have any bearing whatsoever, or is that just a little excuse to play around with Aiden? Like if you were to walk around on the camera, could that potentially jeopardise things at all?
Not sure. I think it might have a play in a trophy, but I'm unsure if it has a play in sort of like anything else. There might be dialogue that maybe like when the CIA capture you, maybe they can use that as an excuse, like, oh, we saw you on the cameras. I don't know, but I don't think too much.
Oh, fair enough, lad.
No, very well. But we have this whole section at the end where you plant the bomb. I actually struggled a little bit with the QTEs here. I found it really unclear that you've got to tap one and move forward. I almost thought tapping one would make you move forward. So yeah, like I struggled at times. And then Ryan does the save at the end where he kind of resurfaces and says, "Oh, you didn't think I was going to leave you, did you?" I don't know if he was hiding from people, but I'd almost ask, why did you submerge in the water and then come back up? Were you trying to look like an action hero? It makes me hate you even more, Ryan. Don't know if you agree with that one, mate.
Yeah, it's like he's got the hero complex. It's like, you hear that thing, don't you? When people create disasters just so that they can go in and look like the good guy. It's sort of it's a little bit like that, isn't it?
Yeah.
He's showing his true colours a little bit. He says he cares for Jodie a lot, but he's like he was so willing to leave until we maybe saw the last minute.
It's like if we robbed a bank and I was the getaway driver, it's like instead of staying around the front door, I drive around the corner just so I can wait for you to pop out so I can drive around and be like, oh, get in. It literally had that written all over it. But lad, we'll just go straight to the end bit with the snow where Ryan and you are kind of cuddled up a little bit. Don't know how Nick and Vince found them. That's another thing. I mean, they probably had a tracker. I'm just nitpicking. A bit of an arsehole today. But Ryan confesses his love to you. Now, on the stream, we said, sorry, no, what you did was too unforgivable for me. I just kind of wanted, before we end this analysis video, mate, what is your take on Ryan at the minute? Because, there are pros and cons there. Obviously, he lied to us. He got us to murder an innocent democratically voted general. He's destroyed families basically, in this African nation or whatever. But I mean, he seems sorry. He seems like he's genuine. I kind of wanted your 2 cents, mate.
No, absolutely not. I think the stream made the right decision. Just because the guy says he loves you, just because the guy says, oh, my stepdad abused me, that doesn't mean that we should suddenly get all emotionally attached to the guy. His actions spoke a lot. He betrayed us. And yeah, I mean, you know what? I mean, not just even from Ryan's actions, but even just from the game itself, I don't see a spark between these two characters. So even in that sense, I'm sat there thinking, no, I don't ship them. Obviously, maybe if other choices had gone differently, maybe you get better dialogue, X, Y, and Z. But if I'm comparing to other couples from other choice-based games where I'm absolutely certain, yes, I completely see it and I get it. This one, I don't. And it just, I don't know, obviously probably quite near the end of the game now. And I just think that Jodie is going to fall into that realm of, a lead girl that there's potentials for romance, but in my opinion, I wouldn't ship it. I wouldn't go for it.
No, that's very well. I think, any kind of chance at romance completely broken. So yeah, no, I'm in agreement with that one. But yeah, I mean, that was the Dragon's Hideout. We're just going to end the video on the final chapter we're going to cover today, which is the Hauntings, which is the penultimate one, to be honest, before kind of the Black Sun and the ending, before Jack's about to finish it. So yeah, like this whole chapter, it's a pretty small one, so it's not going to take us too long. But in a nutshell, Cole takes Jodie to bed. Jodie asks about Nathan, says that Nathan's grieving, and then you get a spectre of Nathan's daughter, like smothered in blood, walks you to like the office where Nathan's crying and drinking. And then you obviously do the thing that we've done for Stan previously, where we can channel through spirits and dead people and kind of speak out to the living. Quite an emotional scene. What did you make of it, and what does this kind of like make you think about your theories of not trusting Dawkins, lad?
Yeah, it puts somewhat of like I don't know, a sucker punch, you could say. One thing I would say, I think the acting from Willem Dafoe is superb, and it makes me think of another point, and it's something I've said over and over again, but it has to be raised, is that when you've got a situation where the mocap works, where there is the lip syncing matches what someone says, and obviously you've got good graphics, but I feel like of the three, that's probably the least important. It sells emotion so much better. And when I'm not going to name names, but when I look at other teams, other game developers, where they're trying emotion, but one of those pieces isn't quite there, it doesn't quite land for me. But in this game, it goes a step further. So I wanted to almost praise Willem Dafoe for that moment there. As for like the moments, as if what I think's going to happen to his character, I'm still going to stick with it. Obviously, this is something that happened in the past, right? This is when Jodie was a little girl, so there's still plenty of room for him to go a little bit mad and become a villain, as I've sort of alluded to from like her future timeline. And the other thing I wanted to say as well is that I really like that the horror elements of it, the following the ghostly girl, the blinking lights, very dark, which, we've probably only seen in the condenser at this point. So just a nice little section, a bit of emotion. Even when he says like, "Don't leave me," at the end, you just think, oh God, like that must be absolutely haunting, chapter names slugged, put it in there. Yeah, that's my verbal vomit on that chapter, mate.
No, for sure, and I think you're very right. And if it does back your point up at all, it almost at the end there seemed like he was like really insistent for Jodie to continue, wasn't it? He was very much like, no, bring it back. So like, I definitely get your school thought why you'd think that. So yeah, like a very powerful scene. I still retain, I don't think it's powerful as Homeless. That chapter's the GOAT for me. But nonetheless, mate, we will park the video there. So guys, please let us know your thoughts in the comments. What did you make of these chapters? Do you forgive Ryan? Do you hate him? What did you think of Dawkins at this point? Let us know everything in between. Do you like Cole? Do you feel sad about Norah? How are you? What's your favourite colour? Anything you want, we'll comment in. But this was the penultimate episode. Join in next week where we are going to be finishing Beyond Two Souls. Jack is going to watch it and he's going to talk about what his favourite ending is, and we're going to just talk about everything about the game afterwards. So if you guys like this kind of content, please like and subscribe, and we will see you in the next one.
Thank you guys. See you in the next one.